Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 439 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryo Media Network. Boo, 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 boo. Today, I can't help it. It's the Olympics. I have to. Today, recording day is Friday. Thank God. Friday, August 2nd, 2024. And it's going to be another hot one here at the Beaver Lodge. It's going to be a hot one for the next few days here. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And I am very, very, very happy that you are here. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Forgot to mention pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? Because I want to particularly mention that because I've been receiving a lot of hello pronouns type of tweets from hello triggered by pronouns people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, one yesterday on one of the shorts, somebody wrote in gay, and I responded, yeah, your point? Like, what's your point?
Yes, I'm always very happy. What's your point?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
You have a problem with happiness?
Apparently they do, because they're weird.
Weird. Or, as PeePee likes to say, wacko.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and the weirdness thing is...
But it's like telling a gay person, you're a faggot, is not exactly an insult. It's more like a statement of fact.
It's like, you're so gay. Yes.
Yes.
And the sky is blue and water's wet.
And?
What are you trying to tell us here?
I'm waiting for your next... I'm like, what are these days? Like, shit, really? Really? I had no idea. I am? Oh, gee, look what happened to my wrist. Sorry. I don't understand these people like this. And then the other one is like, you're a pedophile. So whenever they turn around and says, oh, well, that's great because you're a necrophiliac. Oh, you didn't expect me to zig. What? I just, since we're saying things about people that are absolutely not true,
yeah,
at least we hope. Right, necrophiliacs?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, if you can say that about me, I can say something far worse about you. I mean,
Right.
if we're going to just make shit up, right?
Well, that's why I'm sitting there. It says, oh, I bet you deep French kiss your great-great-great-great-grandmother with that tongue. Think about that, because now it's not only necrophiliac, but it's incestuous too. Yeah. It's like, do not try to outbitch a queen.
And
You're
this is
just
the
gonna
thing.
fail.
This is the thing that straight people do not. Straight people who are homophobic, for the most part, do not understand. They're like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to call him gay. I'm like, you think this has never happened before? Number one, and number two, oh honey, you have no idea what you've dug
And
yourself into.
And particularly online, oh, congratulations. This is the 3 billionth time in my life that somebody has called me gay or a pedophile. Seriously. Oh, give you the prize for originality.
Yes.
It's like the number one cardinal sin on social media is being boring and unoriginal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, yes, the 3 billion and 1th time I see it, it's going to break me. People, it's like, you cannot hurt my feelings unless I open the door and give you permission.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have it. So you can say whatever it is you want. It's just, it's all I'm looking at is, one, it's an interesting look for you. And two, you just make me pity you. The only thing that happens is I feel really, really sorry for you. I just sit there and go, wow, I do not know who damaged you, but you seem to be a very angry person. And I really hope that there's someone close to you that loves you enough to get you to the psychological help that you need. But I feel sorry for you.
I often respond to folks like that with the question of who hurt you? And it's a genuine question, like, who hurt you? Who made you this way? Because you weren't born this way. You weren't born hating.
Gay is born this way.
Yes.
Hateful is not born that way.
Nobody is born hateful. Hate is taught. Ignorance is taught. Well, ignorance is taught. No, it's not. Hatred is taught.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I wish I ignored that they existed.
Yes.
That would be way more blissful.
So can we start with the weird? I want to start with the weird.
Shall we start with, okay, we can start
with the weird, and then
I will indulge you.
Then we'll go to summer, okay? Let's start with the weird. So this is where the weird started. I think when was this? Hang on. This was like 2 days ago, July 31st. This is from the leader of the opposition of Canada.
Oh, yes.
Pierre Poilievre. You just blow this up a bit so you can see it a bit better. Sign here to have a prime minister who doesn't admire basic communist dictatorships. How to do communism. Establish a new communist utopia. Rob or kill the successful. Force the rest to work for free. Run out of food. Starve to death. Say it wasn't real communism.
And then establish a new communist utopia. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
And by the way, just so you sorry to interrupt you. That's exactly what conservatives do. Like this. Do their campaign. Lose their campaign, say we didn't communicate our policies well enough, try a new communications tactic, but still put out the same old stupid policies that have been rejected God knows how many times. It's not that you can't communicate the policies well. It's because your policies suck.
Yes. Well, this is just bizarre behavior from the leader of the loyal opposition. And of course, the response from the prime minister, I think, was great.
I know.
I think this guy needs to touch grass.
Or perhaps even smoke some.
Something.
That guy needs to calm down. That PeePee guy is wound way too tight. Just way too tight.
I mean, the behavior from him is bizarre.
It is totally bizarre. It's again
his whole weird. Comment the other day, like this man is not. He needs help.
Again, it's almost like there's a whole bunch of Canadians now that are going like Poilievre is weird and conservatives are weird, or Poilievre is wacko and wacko conservatives are wacko PeePee and whatnot. This was just, and things travel like this, and it applies. But I mean, he's unstable.
Yes.
He's unstable. It's beyond weird. It's unstable.
His only cons right now is Twitter, because the House isn't sitting, so he doesn't get his 2-minute or his 30-second clip from question period right now, right? So this is how he's communicating.
Yeah, which is why they called back that committee on the status of women thing, so that he can have an opportunity to have some clips of something going on in Parliament that he can market.
Blew up in their face.
Yeah. Well, here, yesterday I talked about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all of this was a pretext for on the conservative side to then just go out and say, to market this as Justin Trudeau doesn't care about survivors of violence and to label him a fake feminist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, did I call it or did I call it? Kits and Cubs. Let's put this up and blow this up here. There we go. If there was any doubt that it was a setup and that this was the plan all along, part 1, because there are that many. Pierre Poilievre. There's
I was
one.
repulsed. Abuse survivor demands Liberal MP apologize after testimony. Hijacked in chaotic House committee.
With a screen cap of a National Post article. Then he retweeted Michelle Ferreri.
No meetings, no acknowledgement of the crisis, wasteful spending, and more deaths. The Liberal legacy. Justin Trudeau, you are a fake feminist, and you and your MPs who silenced these witnesses today should be fired.
Did I call it or did I not call it?
Uh-huh.
All right. Number 3.
This is what the Liberals and the NDP did to victims at an emergency committee on violence against women today. Trudeau's Liberals, backed by sellout Singh's MPs, teamed up to silence victims of intimate partner violence.
So that was Pierre Poilievre, a second time, tweeting on his own, retweeting Anna Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the 3 that were singled out on the committee, although there's all 5. Then Michelle Ferreri again.
Absolutely disgusting. Liberal NDP coalition silence victims. 2 witnesses storm over the House committee in tears decrying Liberal politicization.
Yes. And then...
If there was any doubt.
Yeah, if there's any doubt.
That this was the plan all along. Part 2. No fewer than 7 times did Pierre Poilievre tweet or retweet something with regard to all of this claimed fake feminist. Just as we predicted he would.
7 times yesterday. Yep. 7. They have a limited amount of moves. Once you figure out what the moves are, you know what they're going to do.
Well, there was an article written in the Toronto Star the other day that unfortunately I couldn't access because it was behind a paywall and I'm already paying for too many damn things. But it basically said Canadians need to pay attention to the lies and the garbage that is being spewed forth by Pierre Poilievre.
And I happen to have that one.
Oh, fantastic.
It appeared in the Toronto Star. It is time for Canadians to confront Poilievre's assault on decency. And I'm guessing that by Christopher Holcroft, a contributor. Quote, "Have you no decency, sir?" This dramatic rebuke by lawyer Joseph Welch to U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy during a televised hearing in 1954 turned public opinion decisively against the senator's infamous campaign to persecute his opponents with baseless accusations of being communists. Oh, what? Jeez! What did we open with, Mr. Grizzly?
Uh-huh.
Pierre McCarthy Poilievre.
Yes.
As Americans struggle to overcome a new political threat, it is time for Canadians to confront the assault on decency happening in our own country. I have advocated for civil discourse for 15 years and have been a student of politics for many years longer. The rhetoric and politics of federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is a dramatically new and dangerous development for Canada. After the assassination attempt on U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and recent attacks on the prime ministers of Slovakia and Denmark, it's a global thing.
Mm-hmm.
Poilievre was asked for his reaction to fears political rhetoric is leading to political violence, and I remember seeing the clip of this sitting there, and he was looking like he was annoyed to be asked the question in the first place. No need to tone down. My criticisms of the prime minister are entirely reasonable. Really? The prime minister's deliberately setting the forest fires. They're responsible for Jasper. He's trying to get your kids hooked on drugs. He's releasing. He's actually releasing a crime wave, intentionally trying to create. Really reasonable. Really, yeah. The dictionary you're using probably needs a little update, my friend. So he asks, are they though? Recently, Poilievre referred to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as well as Liberal and New Democratic parties, as, quote, extremists, raving wackos, and lunatics who, quote, detest the working class and have, quote, total disdain for the common people. Poilievre's indifference to the harms of inflammatory speech is irresponsible. Elsewhere in the country, heated language towards politicians has risen to the level of threats of violence. In July, the RCMP announced the arrest of 2 men in June for uttering threats to kill Trudeau, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, and federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Notice that no Conservatives are ever on these kill lists.
Yeah.
Never. While not directly related, words do have consequences. According to a Security and Intelligence Threats to Election Task Force report, extremist narratives have increasingly normalized threats to politicians and have the potential to negatively affect the fabric of Canadian society. And may I point out here, too, that when Poilievre said that his criticisms were entirely reasonable, that was after those arrests, like pretty much like the day after whatnot. That's when he was asked about it. So, oh no, there were 2 people were arrested. So not just a casual thing, but like so bad those threats must have been that somebody went to knock on their door and arrested them. And he still says his criticisms are reasonable. Most of his criticisms aren't even fact-based, even less reasonable. Appealing to the menacing and misinformed has been part of Poilievre's political style for years. Consider the misogynist MGTOW tags on his YouTube videos, his questioning of the value of compensating residential school survivors, his support for the Freedom Convoy, his defending of far-right website Rebel Media, his meeting with protesters holding extreme anti-government views, his promoting of misinformation such as suggesting wildfires in Alberta were started by the Trudeau government or giving air to the Great Reset conspiracy theory, and his siding with radical parental rights marchers over LGBTQ plus kids and their families. Yes, and there are many, many, many more that we can add to that, like saying nothing, as Leslie Lewis, Colin Carey, and Dean Allison had a Nazi brunch with Christine Anderson,
whose party has been labeled by the European Parliament as an extreme right-wing, dangerous party.
And booted out of the coalition by their fellow far-right colleagues. They were too far-right for the far-right.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Jeez. And he's got nothing to say. Oh, also, having nothing to say when Tucker Carlson comes to town, who once again had an interview with, or was doing Vladimir Putin's work after the release of Evan Gershkovich and all those other people yesterday. Yes, but or taking a picture with green shirt guy.
Yes. I didn't read the t-shirt.
Or Diagolon guy, or going into Diagolon friendly trailer, or just it never stops with this guy.
Yeah.
Ever. As my Nana would advise, show me who you go with and I will show you what you are. It's fugly. While it may have become a Canadian cliche to say, this is not who we are, surely this is not what we aspire to be. And I always say, yeah, but this is who some of us are. So pay attention. In addition to vilifying political opponents, Poilievre has taken to insulting journalists and attacking private citizens whose professional duties, policy advocacy, or academic research conflict with his own views. Some of Poilievre's messages have resulted in others facing harassment, hate, and even death threats, but nevertheless he persists.
Stochastic terrorism.
Yes. Through misrepresentation and mockery, disinformation and demonization, Poilievre and his allies are affirming a culture of bullying, social, economic, and political that risks overtaking our civic square. There are undeniable parallels with the political situation in the U.S., which is why it is unsurprising, if no less disturbing, that Poilievre is lauded by the likes of Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, and Fox News. And yesterday on the show, we presented a little thing that Poilievre said when he said his thing about the warpath. Whatnot. That sounds very much like if you don't fight like hell, you won't have a country anymore.
It's going to backfire on him because people, as I've been saying since January, 2024 is the year of the pushback, right? And we are really seeing it south of the border right now with how the Kamala Harris campaign has grown by leaps and bounds and raised tons of money, and people are fully on board with her because they're sick and tired of the lies, the bullshit, the absolute garbage coming out of the extreme right wing. Now, many people will say, and I've heard it from tons, well, she's not much better. Not much better than Trump? What you mean? Oh, yes, she's going to get into bed with corporations and wealthy, just like every leader everywhere on planet Earth does, because that's how politics is done, unfortunately. That's just how it's done. I don't like it. But choosing the lesser of two evils, she's a saint.
Right.
Trump is a demon.
Yes, comparatively. And you have a Kit Jillian here going, Joe McCarthy had a young staffer, Roy Cohn, who decades later became Trump's mentor and personal lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
The through lines continue. And you remember that in Trump's presidency, at one point he asked, where's my Roy Cohn? And poop, Bill Barr appeared.
Yeah.
By the way, Roy Cohn was a closet gay who picked up HIV and died of AIDS.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But never admitted he was gay. Oh, yeah.
Didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
So he was a self-hating gay man.
Oh, yeah, self-hating gay. Like this. And yes, woe be you, including his own doctor. Because his own doctor told him, it's like, you're HIV positive and whatnot, and like this. Well, it's like, sir, I'm pretty sure you did not get that from your wife. And it was sort of like, if you are going to make any type of insinuation like this when I leave here, I will ruin you. That was Roy Cohn.
Yeah, he's a vindictive, mean.
Yeah.
Son of a gun.
To American essayist Adam Gopnik, who spent his formative years in Montreal, these recent developments are shocking and un-Canadian. These are challenging times for Canada and for democracies around the world. Exploiting people's frustrations and fears will do nothing to make life more affordable, improve access to healthcare, address climate change, or strengthen equality. And keep on saying, none of this puts food on your table.
Nope.
Gets you a family doctor.
It just
educates your kids.
It does nothing to help you.
None of this helps you. None of this makes your life easier. None of this gives you any freedom. Canada's common decency, the enduring values of civility and caring, honesty, and humility are central to understanding our country. These are the national characteristics that have inspired our greatest accomplishments and shielded us from our worst crises. This is how we raise our kids, what we teach our schools, preach in our places of worship, and promote in our sports. Such sentiment was fittingly shared by hockey player Wayne Gretzky in his eulogy at former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney's funeral. Quote, our country is all about coming together, being friendly, helping other people, and paying respects, he said. We must fight to hold on to these values and reject the politics of Poilievre. In so doing, we can ensure decency remains Canada's North Star.
And I have the article from Adam Gopnik here, who, something going on with my computer this morning. He's a staff writer at The New Yorker, and he grew up in Montreal. He's an American. Grew up in Montreal. He's a polymath, so he's like very, very smart, to say the least. But he says, I just want to read a couple of lines here. He says, I'm going to start talking about how liberalism is the love that dare not speak its name. When I'm here in the States and I start talking about liberalism, the host says, don't talk about liberalism. That means Hillary Clinton. Talk about liberal democracy, because that could include Ronald Reagan. And if I'm in Canada, everyone says, don't talk about liberals, because that means Justin and the government, the Liberal Party of Canada. When I'm in the UK, they say, don't talk about liberals, because that's the old dead Liberal Party. And in France, liberals are the bad guys because they are free marketers. If you're called a liberal in France, it means a Thatcherite. So you can use the word anywhere you go, but what I mean by it is, of course, the tradition of liberal democracy is it's been passed on to us through the last 300 or 400 years. What I'm going to try and point out is that liberal democracy, liberalism, rests on two pillars. One is familiar to us. It is free and fair election. God knows they're vital and important, but it's possible to have elections of varying degrees of freedom, as in Russia, Iran, and Hungary, where you don't have recognizable liberal democracy. The other pillar is what we call liberal institutions, open institutions, universities, libraries, parks, podcasts, all the places where free conversations can go on, where we can talk to each other without fear. And he is concerned, as am I, that the leader of the loyal opposition is the antithesis of all of that.
Yeah. And Kids and Cubs also, if you want to know a little bit about Roy Cohn, I believe that there's a movie version of it now, but there was a play called Angels in America.
Yes, I've seen
There's a part 1 and part 2 of that that came out in 2018. The character of Roy Cohn was played by the great Nathan Lane.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've
seen the film, but I saw it when it came out.
Yeah, not sure if he plays it in the film.
I thought it came out before 2018.
No.
I'm thinking of the band, and the band played on.
And the band played on. Yeah,
that
was in the 60s. Oh no, and the band played on. Sorry, sorry. That's not
early 90s.
Yeah, early
late
90s. Yeah, that was the
90s,
age. Yeah, I'm thinking of oh God, I can't remember. The Boys in the Band. Sorry.
Oh yes,
which was different.
Yes.
But yes, so yeah, in 2018, Angels in America came out, and he won the Drama Desk Award as the Best Actor and the Tony Award as the Best Actor in a dramatic role. So Nathan Lane can really, and it was an interesting choice to pick an actual gay man to play Roy Cohn for the original on Broadway, but playing against type because Nathan Lane is very open and proud. So the furthest thing from self-loathing that you can think of. So that must have been a stretch. Can you imagine? It's like, hey, Nathan, you're gay. We want you to play a gay role. Well, gee, that's not going to be a stretch. It's Roy Cohn. Oh, yeah, that's going to be hard. So, yeah, we have, how to put it? Then Pierre Poilievre did something really, really, really weird the other day. And remember when we were talking about out in the Middle East, the assassination of a member of Hamas and a member of Hezbollah? They had happened in similar times, two different nations. Israel claimed responsibility for the assassination of Shakur at Hezbollah, but has said nothing about the assassination of Haniyeh. Well, first of all, there was a third assassination, which happened yesterday, which I believe was the military leader of Hamas, and Israel is taking credit for that one. But before the third one happened, Pierre Poilievre did this. Chris Brown of the CBC posted something which was not that far from what we mentioned on the show. Quote, well, if you will read it, Mr. Grizzly.
If you could blow that up, please. There we go.
Oops. There you go.
If you were serious about negotiating a ceasefire, killing the guy on the other side who's negotiating, it seems like a deliberate effort to make sure it doesn't happen.
And what did Pierre have to say about that? Because it's CBC Chris Brown.
CBC is mourning the loss of the leader of Hamas who carried out the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Destroy Hamas, defund the CBC.
Again, who wrote the tweet?
Chris Brown. CBC's Chris Brown.
So is that a tweet from the CBC?
No, it's from Chris Brown. Works for the CBC. Is this an
official position of the CBC?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, if you are serious about negotiating a ceasefire, killing the guy on the other side who's negotiating it, it seems like a deliberate effort to make sure it doesn't happen. Does that sound like mourning?
No. Not at all.
Does it sound like mourning the loss of the leader of Hamas, or mourning, if anything is being mourned, the possibility of having a ceasefire?
That would be the only thing that is being mourned, the possibility of a ceasefire, because he does not mourn the loss of the person. He's saying killing the person that's trying to negotiate a ceasefire is not a good idea.
So normal people read this and don't think this is mourning. Normal people read this and don't think that this is an official CBC position. Words have meanings. Why can't you master words, PeePee? Why are you so weird? That's weird. Because that's a general statement that pretty much everyone around the world is making.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, literally assassinated the person who was considered somewhat moderate, who had channels both ways. I guess who was core on the team for negotiating the hostage release and the ceasefire. And people are saying, well, and we kind of all know that Netanyahu wants to keep this war going as long as possible because he too, like a certain other person that we know of, wants to keep his ass out of jail. if he actually ends the war and wins the war, then I guess the rest of the nation can get back to regularly scheduled programming, like putting his ass in jail. So I'm just, I don't understand this. Words have meanings. But there is not a tragedy. There is nobody's death or misery that this man will not exploit. And seriously, defund Hamas, defund that these things go in the same sentence and the same thought?
They'll sit here and scream at the CBC and say, defund the CBC, and then say, why isn't the CBC showing a specific hockey game I want to watch?
That happened yesterday too. So, but if you put them together, destroy Hamas, defund the CBC, he's literally put them on equal footing there. CBC is to Canada what Hamas is to Israel, is literally what he is saying here by juxtaposing those two thoughts. And yesterday, on our True North Beaver page on Facebook, after having posted a sort of like recap of things that had happened at the Olympics one day, there is nothing that will bring these weirdo wacko PeePee stands out of the woodwork like actually posting anything that said CBC is doing a good job. CBC's excellent coverage, CBC that Pierre Poilievre wants to defund, excellent coverage of the Olympics, they lost their minds. Lost their minds. I got stuff about gender. I don't know what the hell the gender ideology, their gender ideology fantasies has to do with CBC's providing good Olympic coverage. We got over 20 hours of coverage per day on TV. We've got CBC Gem that shows full events. You can watch them back in replay.
Every event available is on Gem. Every single one.
Yes. They're all sitting there and goes, oh, I'm watching the announcers keep on talking about themselves all the time like this. Yeah, if you're watching on the main CBC channel where they're going back and forth and switching back to events and this. But go to sports, go to TSN, you can watch a whole tennis match and sometimes there isn't even any commentary. Just go to CBC Gem. Everyone, like it is literally all there. Are you really saying that if CBC didn't exist, no other networks would pick it up? Of course, nobody said that. Why are you responding to something nobody said? It says other networks have picked it up. There have been Olympics that have been covered by CTV. Coverage wasn't as good.
Well, and
wasn't as extensive.
TSN is covering some of the Olympics. They literally, CBC is working with other broadcasters to cover it because the costs involved, number one, and number two, there's just so much to cover. So they're trying to get absolutely everything to you. So yeah.
But they're going, well, TSN are like us. TSN and Sportsnet has it, but it's not like TSN went and negotiated a deal with the IOC. It's like CBC negotiated the deal and said, okay, we've got all this stuff. Now, which do you networks want this?
Yeah. So
who's in?
It's
an all of Canada effort.
Yes. It's a cooperative agreement between Rogers Sportsnet and Bell, which is TSN. They're getting Olympic coverage too. The feed comes from the CBC.
Right. So, I mean, it's just, you have to know where things come from.
Defund the Conservative Party of Canada.
Seriously. So, but apparently, like I said, try it if you have social media feeds. Just say CBC and something with good job. Or this is what I mean. They lose their minds. We have not had that much engagement on the Facebook page in a year. I didn't go to the Facebook page for 2 days. I went there and it's like there's 137 replies to essentially CBC's providing excellent Olympic coverage.
Yeah, the bots come out of the woodwork for that, right?
And then they say the coverage is terrible like this. They don't know about CBC Gem. They don't know they don't know it's providing coverage in other languages. They don't know anything.
As well.
Yes. They don't know anything.
No. The ignorant.
They're patriots.
They're loud. They're ignorant and they're loud. Yep. That's it.
But they're patriots and they love the country.
Yeah.
Right? Know nothing about it. Never met it. Never took it out on the date, but they love it. I don't know, man. So, yeah. we have PeePee being ridiculously weird, and that is not going to stop, sadly. Now, that thing that we talked about yesterday, that we dedicated the most of the show to, was that meeting that happened. And
it's pretty bad.
Yeah. There's another story that came out yesterday, CTV, that says, MP says she regrets distress caused to witnesses who left the meeting in tears. Quote, Liberal MP Anita Vandenbeld fell short of an apology after instigating a fracas on Wednesday that led two witnesses testifying about violence against women to storm out of a parliamentary committee meeting. Vandenbeld said in a statement that she deeply regrets the, quote, distress that this meeting caused the witnesses. The statement came after domestic violence survivor Kate Alexander demanded an apology from the MP for what she described as abusive behavior. That might be an interesting choice of words, but, quote, sorry, I don't accept this statement from her, Alexander, who appeared before the committee as a witness, said Thursday. She knew what she was doing. She didn't make a mistake. Mistakes happen. I can forgive mistakes. This was intentional. On that, she's right. Another of the committee's witnesses, women advocate Megan Walker, said Vandenbeld's regrets don't amount to an apology. Quote, it's not an apology, it's a statement, said Walker. She has caused an entire community of women and girls who have faced abuse and are following the some distress, and that's not acknowledged here. The rare summer meeting was scheduled for MPs to hear from advocates. This is all the stuff that we mentioned yesterday.
The witnesses were given very short notice too.
Yes, everybody was given short notice, but the witnesses didn't seem to mind about the short notices. Now,
this is the thing. This is not a partisan issue.
It's not a partisan issue, but we have to understand, because how would I put it here? There's plenty of blame to go around here for bad behavior. Now, the first thing that we have to say is, of the two people that were there, right? Any comment, and I'm trying to parse these things in the right way, attributing to people what belongs to people while still being fair. So when it comes to Megan Walker specifically, pretty much anything that she says about MPs specifically, criticisms particularly of MPs who are not conservatives, has to be taken with a grain of salt. Now, I say this not with regard to her claims as a survivor of abuse. I'm talking about her criticisms specifically of the MPs on the committee, because, as we learned yesterday, she is a multiple-time donor to the Conservative Party of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And the Conservative Party of Canada unilaterally called the meeting without consultation or consent from the other members of the committee.
Correct.
And they unilaterally chose the witnesses without consent from the committee. They even added some witnesses in at the last minute on top of that, but they basically denied the opposition any opportunity to have witnesses of their own. And then they presented some witnesses at the last minute, denying the opposition, the other members on the committee, I guess, an opportunity to actually prepare any questions or whatnot, do any research, whatnot, to prepare for those witnesses. So, and again, the event was in part to create the stunt, to label liberals as fake feminists and people who don't care about domestic abuse survivors, and to cut into MPs' time to do their constituency work over the summer. So there's all these reasons here. So the fact that these women, these people that had been invited, were set up is entirely the Conservative Party of Canada's fault.
It's a political stunt, and you do not host political stunts on the basis of violence against women. It is not a partisan issue. You do not politic with this file.
Okay. So the two people here that have made these comments, because were selected by the Conservative Party to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And nobody else got a say or a vote. So you have to take their comments about the politics of this with a grain of salt, not what they have to say about abuse. They are two separate and distinct things. Megan Walker, as we mentioned yesterday, is also one out of 11 people being sued for allegedly orchestrating or participating in a smear campaign. And I read the article yesterday about what was going on. It's rather ugly. It's very ugly, actually. Quote, Ontario's highest court has ruled that a former London police officer turned city staffer's $4 million lawsuit against his ex-wife and two women's advocacy groups and their former directors will be allowed to proceed. In a decision released Thursday, a panel of Ontario Court Appeal justices overturned a Superior Court ruling to dismiss the lawsuit on the grounds that its filing was done to censor the defendants. The lawsuit filed by Marcel Marcelin in 2020 alleged Megan Walker, the former head of the London Abused Women's Centre, and Kate Wiggins, the former head of ANOVA, engaged in a smear campaign against him during a custody battle with his ex-wife, who was also named as a respondent in the appeal along with ANOVA and the London Abused Women's Centre. Marcelin alleged Walker and Wiggins used their influence to intimidate and bully him into giving up his rights by ending his family law claims, quote, or else face dire personal and professional consequences. The claim alleges he was dismissed from the City of London, where he headed the UN Safe Cities project as a result. Walker and Wiggins have denied the allegations. The statement of claim and statements of defense contain allegations not yet proven in court. The lawsuit was dismissed in October 2020 by Superior Court Justice Spencer Nicholson, who found the action vindictive and vengeful, stating that it had been brought to silence the moving parties and could cause a chilling effect on victims' abuse. Nicholson ruled in favor of a motion from the women's groups that the claim was a strategic lawsuit against public participation, or a slap suit, filed to censor critics by burdening them with an expensive and time-consuming legal battle. However, he wrote, Walker and Wiggins had tried to interfere in Marcelin's custody dispute while advocating for his ex-wife, including by telling his supervisor, Martin Hayward, that he had been accused of domestic violence and asking that he persuade Marcelin to drop his family law proceeding. Again, not proved in court, but these are some pretty...
Yeah.
This is, if true and proven in court, this is behavior that is just disgusting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that's sort of what's going on there. So take the political stuff, that's one part. With all of that said, MP Anita Vandenbelt did objectively screw up. And yes, for those who hate watch us, I'm about to criticize liberals.
Imagine that.
She screwed up by using this moment to try to resolve a process issue and change the subject of the meeting. We didn't have time to prepare for this, so could we discuss this other thing that we were discussing before we recessed for the summer instead? While the witnesses had showed up, and they were there. Now, had the meeting been about something like changing the tax code or funding research, it might have been appropriate to bring up the process issue at that point in the meeting with the witnesses there. But the issue was domestic violence.
Right.
And witnesses alleged to have experienced it. Even Megan Walker deserved better than that. The process argument took place in front of the witnesses who, understandably, given the sensitive nature of the subject, were harmed by this. And they left less than impressed. It simply wasn't the right moment to bicker about process, even though Vandenbelt was 100% correct about the CPC members of the committee, under the direction of its new chair, having intentionally made choices to screw over other parties and lessen the value of the meeting. The meeting would have had way more value if they would have been able to hear from more voices. And with members, all the members that were not Conservative Party being able to actually prepare and ask salient questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, clearly they did not call this meeting to have the best possible meeting, to get the best possible result for the people for whom they claim to have been advocating. Because they wouldn't have done that. All that part is the CBC's doing. If there were process issues that absolutely had to be resolved before anything could start, would have been best to go in camera.
Yeah.
Go behind closed doors. Let the witnesses wait somewhere. Make sure that they have plenty to drink, that they have got plenty to eat. Make sure that there maybe even be some counseling services there. Because it's already nerve-wracking. You're going there to talk about something terrible that happened to you. That's very, very hard to talk about. Okay, it's going to be delayed for a while because we got a couple of process issues to resolve. Go someplace comfortable with not too much stimulation, and if the extra time is making people nervous, maybe have some counseling support. That could have been done, but no. Instead, it was dirty laundry was aired out in public, right in front of the witnesses, causing them additional stress on a day when their emotions and stress were probably already at a peak.
Oh, yes.
They did not need this. There was an utter lack of emotional intelligence, of judgment, and of discernment in this case. The witnesses did deserve an unreserved and unambiguous apology for this, but Anita Vandenbelt was not able to bring herself to do that. As she was expressing regret, she was not able to say, "I'm sorry, I picked the wrong moment." That was my bad. Organizing the meeting in this way was their bad. But me, right off the bat. And it's not like she was aggressive about it. I've seen a clip. She was calm and she was not trying to be accused. Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still not the time, because she basically took the bait. The Conservatives set it up that way, and she went into that meeting like it was any other meeting and said, "Mr. Chair, I'd like to start with a point of order," and like this right before things get started, and start arguing about process. Again, these are not changes to the tax code.
No.
We're talking about people's deeply emotional, psychologically scarring things that are become, as Christine Blasey Ford said, indelible in the hippocampus. Events that have happened to people. This is not how you handle this situation. Do you have any emotional intelligence whatsoever? What the hell?
Clearly not.
It's not always most important for other people to admit you were right. Even if you were right. Especially if it comes at the cost of doing right by survivors. Anita was in that meeting. She had a point. She was correct about the point, and she wanted Conservatives, who will never concede anything to a Liberal, to say, "Oh, you were right. We screwed up." That was not going to happen. You know who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell were you doing? In what universe did you think that was a good move? Jeez. And yes, like I said, the Conservative MPs on that committee merit to have their backsides raked over the political coals for all eternity.
Yes.
For having exploited the survivors to manufacture a stunt serving only to accuse the Prime Minister of not caring about survivors. Somebody who goes by Michelle Golden Retriever Mama specifically said, this whole shit show was for an audience of one.
Yeah.
Pierre Poilievre. The devastating and sad truth here is that pretty much no MP behaved appropriately here. None of them. All in different ways, but none of them did. The moment was supposed to be about the survivors, and the committee lost sight of that, and they lost sight of it at all stages. The stage of calling the meeting, of organizing the meeting, of selecting the witnesses, or blocking witnesses, not allowing MPs to prepare. And not one Conservative MP, you will see all these Conservative MPs are there complaining about the Liberals trying to shut down the process. Not one of them stopped. Not one of the chair didn't interrupt the meeting. The chair didn't say, let's go into they let it happen.
Oh, yeah.
The Conservatives that were there, when they saw it was devolving, allowed it to keep on happening rather than saying, you know what, this isn't appropriate. Let's stop this right now. We'll go in camera. So they were all too happy to have that happen. As you can tell by how they used it for clicks. Meanwhile, you have all these people that showed up there for what? Even if Megan Walker had a secondary motive to be there, that was hyperpartisan. Even if.
Yeah.
All the rest of it.
You shouldn't be playing politics with this file, though. It's like disgusting. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. And let's be clear, the fact that Megan Walker did donate to the Conservative Party does not necessarily mean that she was there for partisan purposes. But it also raises the question, out of all of the people in Canada who's a survivor of domestic violence, you really had to pick one that was a 3-time donor to the party as you were blocking other people, really? And you thought that was going to, really? You thought that was going to be good for her? Because you have people like us speculating about whether or not she had mixed motives. That, again, distracts from the actual issue. That you claim that you were there to try and improve. This moment was not about you, MPs. It was not about you to grab a mic and say, I've done all of this work for this and I really care about the subject. The moment was supposed to be about, thank you for responding to our call and for coming. We know that this is going to be a difficult day and we would like to make this as easy as possible, but you do have information that is vital for us to know in order to make things better. And we are extremely grateful that you have graced us with your presence.
Instead, they tried to score political points against their rival.
Everybody was trying to score political points against everybody there.
Yeah.
They completely lost sight of the survivors.
They were pawns for them and nothing more. Nothing more. That was it. That was all. It's who this Reform Party is. They do not care one iota about anybody but themselves.
Collateral damage is just the cost of doing business.
They don't give a shit. I mean, I say it all the time, but it's, the old Maya Angelou saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. They've been showing us who they are for a while now. And people are not believing them for some reason. Or they're believing the bullshit that they tell them. I just don't understand how they could have any support, how this party has any support. I don't know how a single woman living in this country could think about voting Conservative in the next election. Because they don't care about you. And they just proved it to us.
Yeah.
So ladies, get your hackles up. Get pissed.
We're right behind you.
Get loud, get angry. We will stand here behind you, supporting you 100%. Raise hell. Because this shit can't stand. It can't go on.
This ain't it.
No. It's bad.
It's really bad. Want to give a big note of thank you actually to Kit T. Wigmore here, who who's joined us on our chat. If I'm understanding correctly, because I reread the chat yesterday, I believe they're actually watching us from the United States. So welcome. And they've made like really beautiful comments about the topics that we're handling and the way that we're handling them. So I just wanted to let you know that we see you, and we're grateful for what you have to say about us. So
thank you.
Thanks.
I have a clip here. I don't know if it's about 9.5 minutes, almost 10 minutes actually.
Okay.
And it's from our friend Lisa.
Okay.
And it's about what we've just discussed.
Okay.
Do you want to? We can have a look at it.
Yeah, it's Lisa. Just play. It's Lisa. It's going to be quality from beginning to end. So just play.
I'd like to double check. It's a long one, but that's just good because I need a couple of minutes to take care of something here.
This particular subject requires, because there are so much little delicacies and little intricacies, and it's very easy. This is the reason why I've taken so much time to really try and separate what I'm talking about, the MPs, and talking about the abuse specifically, as two separate things, because the last thing you want is for somebody to say, oh, you just like put it all in one basket. No. This one is complicated because a lot of people did bad things, but they did different bad things and for different reasons. All right.
Okay, let's have a look at this. This is a few minutes. It's about 9 minutes and 49 seconds of Lisa just delivering it in the way that she does, that we love so much.
We need to take some time to unpack all of this. Unpack all of this. All of this. And I'm going to need you to bear with me, because this is what the media has picked up on. And it's a sensational story, don't get me wrong. But is it a true representation of what happened yesterday? I say no. Now, did people get upset and walk out? Absolutely. But we're going to unpack all of that. So the Committee on the Status of Women had an emergency meeting yesterday, wherein the meeting was called in very short notice. For some. For others, I'm sure they'd been planning this for quite some time. Planning it so much so that they had witnesses that they were bringing to speak to the issue. And the issue was intimate partner violence. However, in calling the meeting, the courtesy was not extended to other people on the committee so that they could prepare and in turn potentially bring their own witnesses to speak to the very same issue. But all that we're hearing about is that voices were silenced, because that's what gets the headline, the soundbite, the rage. But did people watch it? Did you watch the hour plus of the committee? I did. Now, Michelle Ferreri indicated that this emergency meeting was called because there's a crisis and policy needs to be reviewed. It is a crisis. It's not a new crisis, but it is a crisis. And so the Conservative Party of Canada brought 3 witnesses, all to speak on their experience, their knowledge and understanding, but not one of them really spoke to the solution. It was just that it's not working. Now, I'm not going to say the witnesses were skewed to the Conservative side, because I believe in the heart of hearts, they really want something better for everybody. But again, there was no opportunity for any other party to bring their own witnesses. Now, the deputy police chief certainly did start off talking about intimate partner violence, and then drifted off into carjackings and home invasions and bail reform. No solution, just bail reform. Now, just so that people are aware, there was bail reform in 2019, and then there was bail reform earlier this year. Now, the whole premise of whether someone gets bail or doesn't get bail is based on a variety of things. Past convictions, risk to the public. But this amendment added reversed onus. It increased the reversed onus, which, although an individual is innocent until proven guilty, and that applies for everybody. That's why people like Pat King got bail initially. But the reverse onus looks at a bunch of different things, which would ultimately support the denial of bail. Now, all 3 witnesses talked a lot about the criminal justice system, how the accused seem to have free reign, how some court cases get tossed out, and how some get stayed. Now, in situations where court cases get stayed, it's not because the person is innocent. It's because there's not enough information to be able to provide a conviction. So the Crown will stay the matter. It can be reopened if there's more evidence that comes forward. But in terms of cases being thrown out, 9.98% of time, it's because there's not enough staff to pursue the cases. Not enough Crown, not enough administrative support. And guess whose fault that is? The provinces. Guess who administrates the bail? The provinces. And when these bail reforms happened, they were done in consultation with the provinces. But let's get back to yesterday's meeting, because we know the Conservative Party of Canada never does anything without an agenda. Now, I believe, and it's only my opinion, that this was a setup by the Conservative Party of Canada, and the collateral damage were the witnesses. Now, I don't know what the witnesses were told about attending the committee meeting. I don't know what promises they were given. I don't know if they were schooled in committee procedure. But if you tell somebody you're going to have an opportunity to come and speak your truth and everybody's going to hear you and they're finally going to care, and you potentially set them up for failure, of course they're going to get mad and turn their backs on the committee and then walk out. Now, what happened yesterday in this committee is a fucking embarrassment, but not for the reason you think. I think the whole premise of the committee meeting yesterday was destined to fail. And then the actual behaviors within the committee yesterday, fucking embarrassing. So I'm going to play you some clips, because if you haven't watched it, you need to understand that the headline doesn't explain the entire meeting and is actually manipulating the trauma and experiences of the witnesses for a political agenda. Because everybody sitting on the Committee of the Status of Women care about intimate partner violence. But a lot of good points were raised in the meeting, not from the Conservatives, so just take a look.
I want to reassure you, both of you, but especially Kate, because you said that you don't believe that any of us care. And I want to reassure you very much that all of us on this committee care very deeply. It's why we've done so many studies on intimate partner violence. We've had testimony like yours that is very difficult to hear, but has been very, very important to put recommendations. And we believe you, and we believe others like you. And our government has put many, many measures to try to make sure that the things that happen to you don't happen to others. Numerous bills, Bill C-51 on amending sexual assault laws, C-75 on bail reforms, C-48 now that targets repeat offenders of intimate partner violence, C-28 on intoxication not being used as a defense, C-63 on online harms. We have a national action plan on gender-based violence that has been signed by all the provinces. And we've put $539 million in budget 2022 behind that, something that the Conservatives actually voted against. So I want to start everything that I say by saying that if anyone tries to say that there's anyone in this room who doesn't care about this issue, I think that they are playing partisan games, because people in this room have spent our lives fighting on this issue, listening to that kind of testimony, and I just want to reassure you of that.
That's Anita Vandenbeld, the Liberal MP that's being vilified by the Conservatives for dismissing victims of intimate partner violence. But that's not really how it played out in the meeting now, is it? Now, one of the witnesses stood up with their passport and said that they were embarrassed of their Canadian passport because they're not safe in Canada. They live in the US now. This is in no way to take away from the trauma that this person went through or the experiences that the other witnesses brought to the table. It was just done in the wrong way. And it was done in the wrong way because of Conservatives. Because committees have agendas. They have ongoing issues. They have minutes. They have procedure. And this pitting of women's issue, when intimate partner violence encompasses so much more, trans issues, non-binary issues, Indigenous issues. But it's pitting issue against issue, because this is what happened next.
I just want to reassure you of that. I also do, with respect, want to talk a little bit about how this meeting came about. We have had studies that we've all agreed on to talk about these issues. In fact, we're in the middle of a study right now on coercive control, which we have put a number of witnesses that we'd like to hear from as a committee. But we know that the Leader of the Opposition has asked Conservative-chaired committees to hold as many meetings as possible during the summer to take us away from the important work that we're doing listening to our constituents. And We also know that in this case, it was a few days' notice. We were not given, any of the members except Conservatives, the opportunity to put forth witness names, which is something that every committee does just out of basic fairness and respect. And I personally would have had a number of witness names that I would have loved to have heard from. In fact, there were witness names added an hour before the meeting so that members didn't even have a chance to plan or prepare what kind of questions we might want to ask. I know that for this committee, this is something we've never done. We do not use victims and survivors' trauma to try to score political points in this committee.
And then she referenced something that was tabled from the last meeting, which, if this is a continuation of the committee, probably should have been dealt with first. But that's likely not what was presented to the witnesses, or that it's even a possibility that they're going to reference what's still open. Now, I don't have time on here to show you all the clips that I pulled, because there's a lot, showing absolute disregard for procedure by the chair. Shelby Crump-Newman, CPC MP, who visibly sighed at the number of points of order when she ignored the hand of another MP, Leah Gazan, who had her hand up long before Michelle Ferreri, except Shelby just kept making excuses and wouldn't concede. Leah, who's an MP from Manitoba, also would have liked to have been able to bring witnesses, and pointed out the fact that there were no Indigenous witnesses, members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, and Michelle Ferreri had the caucasity to say that Kate Alexander, in her witness testimony, spoke to all groups, provided examples from all groups. You see the problem I have with that? It still doesn't give a voice to those marginalized groups. Again, we're pitting things against each other, things that are important. Now, I highly encourage people to go and watch the hour and a bit. I know it's taking time out of your day, but you need to see it goes beyond the headline. All issues related to women and female presenting people are important, but it's the cons who manipulated it for a headline. Witnesses should be mad at them.
Boom. Boom. She said it so much more eloquently than I did.
Well, it's just, I mean, she knocked it right out of the park, as she always does.
Yep. I just, again, I ended the show yesterday with just, oh, fuck me. Because I'm not hardwired that way, so I can't understand it. I can't understand what would, on these type of subjects, because when you should be wanting the best possible information, the most complete possible information, everybody, no exceptions, men, women, no matter how you identify, can be the victim of abuse within the home. Any age, children, seniors. As you're an adult and you think you got everything together, and then all of a sudden the tables turn and you're sitting there and you're wondering, you're on the floor and you're wondering, oh my God, how did I end up here? Like, I'm an adult that's got my stuff together. How did I end up in this situation? Those thoughts that reel through your mind.
That is the question that gets asked all the time.
How did this happen? I asked the right questions. I looked for the red flags. When there was something, I said, hey, this happened. Can we talk about this? Like, I asked all the questions. I was in an abusive relationship once. Not physically. Thankfully, because guy was 6'4" and over 230, so I wouldn't have survived that. But I was in an abusive relationship once. Because at every step in the process, when there was something, so, oh, you know what? Something happened. Let's talk about this. But they had the answer for everything. And it wasn't until the poop hit the fan completely, and the relationship had completely imploded. 2 days after Christmas. And I was sitting at home in my living room on New Year's Eve thinking, like, 3 days ago, I had a ring on my finger and we were talking about moving in together, and now it's New Year's Eve and I'm sitting in my living room alone. How the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
Because I'm the person who put a ring on my finger, someone I never want to speak to again. In fact, I made it quite clear. When I was dropped off at the airport, the first thing I did was plug my computer into a wall and says, let's make this very clear. I don't want to hear from you. I don't even want my name to cross your lips. Do not ask my friends about me. Do not, we never were. I want you no ill will. I just want my energy untied from yours as fast as humanly possible. And then 26 more times in the next year, this person tried to establish contact with me. 26. Before he finally imploded in public in front of other people and then just disappeared. I know I wasn't hit, but that feeling of like I was honest all throughout. I did the right things. I learned from the mistakes that I made in my past relationships. I applied those. When I saw something that was wrong, I asked about it. I didn't like this when there was something, the time where your partner is starting to make jokes, but all the jokes are put down jokes. All of a sudden, and it's like, we all have self-deprecating senses of humor. We all do a little put down jokes, like, one here and there, but like 5, 6, 7 of them a day. It's like, can we talk? Because this is not funny to me. We had all those conversations. I was proactive. I didn't let it slide. And I still ended up, I'm sitting there and go, I did everything right. How did I end up here? It's a mind fuck. Add physical violence to that, as if the psychological and the emotional wasn't enough. I personally can't imagine it because I didn't suffer that part. But holy crap.
Yeah. It's,
One of the witnesses came with photos.
Mm-hmm.
The abuse physically was that bad that they had photos.
And what did they do? The conservatives played politics with this. These are not good people. I'm going to have to say this.
They all play politics, but
they all play politics. But this is not a file that you play politics with. You don't try and score political points on this file. You are supposed to work together in bipartisanship to make it better for every woman in this country. Yesterday was damaging. Yesterday was a black eye. It's just, the amount of disgust I have for these folks right now, it's off the charts. It literally, I can't begin to tell you how angry, upset, and disgusted I am at this kind of behavior. This is not how you do this. This is not how you do this. You do not play games with people's lives. And that's what they did. And they did it with wanton disregard for the thoughts, feelings, emotions, expressions that these women have felt and are feeling and are going through. They belittled them and knocked them down to nothing. They treated them as political pawns in a game of chess so they could score a few political points and get some headlines out of it. And what did we say? And what did they do? 7 times. 7 times Poilievre and his minions made hay of this. This is not a file you make political hay from.
And just so you know, those are only the 7 times, 7 things that PeePee either posted himself or retweeted himself. I didn't go on Michelle Ferreri's page. The ones that said Michelle Ferreri or Roberts, those are ones that PeePee. Had I gone on their own pages, I might have found way more.
Right.
That's just what the leader did. 7 times. The leader, who wasn't even in the room.
Despicable human being. Despicable human being. We're going to have to wrap up shortly because the renovations have begun again and it's getting really noisy in here.
Oh, darn. I had so much more.
Apologies. It's impossible to do any work in here with the things the way they are right now.
Okay. There's one thing that's particularly important that I have to mention, if you happen to be living in the British Columbia area, in the area around the Chilcotin River and the Fraser Valley between the Chilcotin confluence and Hope, British Columbia, you are being asked to remain extremely vigilant, and you may have to evacuate. And it's not fires, but it seems that some time ago there was a landslide that happened that created some type of barrier and dammed something up. And it seems that whatever it is that is dammed, because this is not a dam that humans built or Beaver Dam or whatnot. This is as a result of the mudslide, the landslide. Something blocked the flow of water. It is suspected that it will probably give within the next 24 to 48 hours, and all the water that's accumulated there will come rushing down if that happens. Emergency Preparedness Minister British Columbia Bowen Mao has put out a warning there, and so for people to do that, and I just want to get it for you here. The emergency thing that was put out. So just if you will be patient with me for a second here, I will draw it out. But there we go. Emergency Info BC. Ongoing, a BC emergency alert has been issued by the province of British Columbia. People and boaters are asked to leave the following areas immediately: the banks of the Chilcotin River from Hansville to Fraser River, the Fraser River from Chilcotin River to Hope, British Columbia. And then in the statement that they put out specifically, see a BC emergency alert message. So it seems to be the same thing that's written there. I'm just scrolling through. So yeah, not much more information than that at the moment. But there's also some concern for salmon stocks as well, because it's the path that they used to spot, and it's actually the season, like right now.
Right.
So there could be some extremely more damage. But it says here, this is from the Canadian Press News out of Williams Lakes, British Columbia, reporting here. A landslide of debris piled 30 meters high and 600 meters long has dammed the Chilcotin River in British Columbia's central interior, creating a lake that officials say could give way. They say the sudden rush of water could set off dozens of evacuation orders and alerts downstream. Margot Wagner, chair of the Caribou Regional District, said Thursday that the water building up behind the slide south of city of Williams Lake could reach a level where it will start flowing over the debris or it will erode the material, setting off a release. And there's a map here included in this. I will put it up for a second here, Mr. Grizzly, so that people can see where it is that we're talking about. So right in this area here, right? The article goes on, quote, as the water continues to flow and builds up behind that landslide, the pressure increases, but we do not have a definitive time of when that will let go, she told a media briefing. Officials have estimated a release could come Friday or Saturday. Wagner said the riverbed below the slide is dry and officials aren't certain about the potential downstream impacts when the dam is breached. But she said it's clear there would be a mass of water coming down the Chilcotin, which flows south into the Fraser River. We don't know exactly when this landslide is going to give way. We are hearing that it's expected between 24 to 48 hours. And that was there a time on this one? No, so I can't tell how many hours ago this was. The slide is massive, Wagner added. Wagner said they aren't aware of any injuries except to one man who broke his leg while he was running away from the slide, which struck late Tuesday or early Wednesday. The nearby Chilcotin National Government declared that's Indigenous National Government in this case, declared a state of local emergency Thursday and warned people to stay away from the river. The statement said, quote, the situation is changing rapidly with many unknowns and flooding has the potential to threaten bridges to two communities. Quote, at this time, we don't know what each day will bring, but we are prepared and have managed emergencies over thousands of years, including several slides blocking the river in my lifetime, Chief Joe Alphonse said in the statement. Minister of Emergency Management Bowen Ma told a separate news conference Thursday that if the dam were to break, it's possible that dozens of evacuation orders and alerts would be issued along both rivers, and, quote, people need to be prepared. Quote, let me be clear, the risk to people and communities along the river is unknown at this time, but it has the potential to be significant. She said engineers, geologists, and hydrologists are on site and in the air assessing the landslide and working to understand the potential impacts downstream. The minister said people living alongside the Chakotlan River and Fraser Rivers for hundreds of kilometers to Hope at the eastern end of BC's Fraser Valley are encouraged to pack and prepare for their home for possible flooding by moving equipment and other assets from low-lying areas. Ma said anyone planning to be on a boat on the Fraser needs to rethink that, and people must stay away from the shoreline between Hope and the confluence of the Chakotlan, as a gush of water and debris can make the banks unstable. Evacuation orders span 107 square kilometers along the Chakotlan, which the district said involves 60 properties, including 12 homes with an estimated 13 residents. Wagner said the landslide happened in an area that was burned out during wildfires in 2017. One thing leads to another, and these climate change things. There's a lot of area where the trees are dead, they are still standing, but their root system is totally done and they are not absorbing water, which is an issue. Dwayne Tannant, a geotechnical engineer professor at UBC Okanagan, said the topography in the region is prone to landslides, and while the 2017 fires are likely to have been a factor, he doesn't believe it was the main cause. Quote, I'm thinking it's more than wildfire, it's the geology, topography, and total erosion that are probably the key drivers here, he said, noting the slide was not a preventable event. It would be an economical use of provincial resources to do anything, particularly the scale of the slide and where it's located, he said when asked about mitigation. Tennant said a river-blocking landslide, quote, is relatively rare, but officials should be concerned that slopes upstream of the blockage could become destabilized once the dam breaks, potentially creating a domino effect of other landslides. I think that's a remote possibility, but it should be given some consideration, he said. BC's River Forecast Center has issued a flood warning for the Chakotlan north of the slide, saying the debris is, quote, creating a lake that extends several kilometers upstream. The Forecast Center says the eventual breach of the landslide debris could also lead to an outburst flood, with a surge of water rapidly flowing downstream. In the event of a breach, the Forecast Center says the surge could reach the Fraser River within hours, and while flooding south of the Fraser Canyon would likely be less severe, substantial increases in flow could extend to the mouth of the river in Metro Vancouver.
Wow.
Okay, this is big.
Yeah.
A flood watch has been posted downstream of the Chakotlan and Fraser Rivers to Hope, while a high stream flow advisory has been issued for the Fraser River right through the mouth of the river in Metro Vancouver. Ma said there are worries that a sudden release of debris could cause additional erosion as it moves down the river, as well as concerns about what impact the blocked water is having on salmon. Quote, there are also concerns that persistent low water levels might impact navigation channels for fish, like the ongoing Chinook Run and the Sockeye Run coming up. Those can have significant impacts on the ecology of the river system. So, again, all the things that you need, pack your bags, have it close to the door, and be ready to go at a moment's notice. Do not wait. Do not wait until it's declared. Have your bags packed now, because once a day breaks, that's not the time to start gathering your stuff.
No, you don't have any time. You got to get out of there as quickly as possible. So right. I need to address something here in the comments.
Okay.
I'm going to put it on the screen, and then I'm going to address it. Reverend Chad.
Oh, that one.
If you're actually a man of the cloth, you might want to re-examine your commentary here, because you've clearly not been watching the show, because that is not what we were doing here. We are reporting upon something that took place.
Didn't we block Reverend Chad on another platform?
Maybe.
A couple of weeks ago?
I don't know. He only made 2 comments, so I don't need to block him just yet. But, if that happens, we'll block him. But here's the thing, Reverend Chad. That is not what we were doing. If you think that's what we are doing, you haven't been watching the program.
Again, why can't you master words?
Dude, we're reporting on a story that took place because the headlines would have you believe something else took place when what actually did take place. We're trying to tell you the story behind the headline, to reveal the fact that the headline is bullshit. So, you're allowed and entitled to your opinion. But if you think that's what this is, you're very, very mistaken.
Yeah. Also, Kits and Cubs, we were hoping to have Kit Dan on the show for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, technical Technical issues prevented that from happening. He couldn't. He was logging in, but it kept logging him out for some reason.
Yes, because this fine man, as we talk about often, sometimes you got to throw your body in the game. Because run for something, you might be the change you're waiting for. Well, Dan did that. And yesterday, he went down to City Hall to pay his $100 and sign his papers to officially become a candidate for Ward 15 for the by-election. And from what I've been seeing in the chat, it seems that there was someone else that had wanted to run who was one signature short. So Dan offered his own signature. Rather than saying, hey, this person might be a competitor. Oh, you need my signature? No. Said, no, the more voices, the better. That's how you do it.
Exactly.
That's how you do it. So, Dan?
Well done, sir.
Well done, sir. And we will have you on the show to talk about that. All right, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir. We do indeed. I have a quick Easter egg when we come back after the credits for you that I find very interesting.
Yes, and plus we have to do a little cheering for somebody who did us proud.
Oh, yes.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, and you have the mouths from which we want the words to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. And if you do not want to miss an episode, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, because she too is fly, particularly on Fly Day. And she has sponsored our pod page, podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And I'm sure the QR code will appear soon enough there so that you can scan it if you're watching. And if you'd like to help us in other ways, why not make like Kit Elaine and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. 4,900 subscribers so far. Woohoo! Closing in on 5,000. And we just crossed 2,500 on our Twitter feed. So thank you so much, everyone. And if you do that, you have 3 buttons there. One's called like, one's called share, one's called subscribe. Lick them, click them, flick them. Whatever you do with them, it makes us happy. So long as you activate them somehow. Because if you just walk by them, then you make the little baby Jesus cry. Okay. No guilt trip. Sorry. Jesus, I'm sorry to have used you that way. You will make us cry. And you don't want to see a crying beaver.
No, I don't.
No. So click those like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you would like to help us in yet other ways, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head brings you to our coffee page and our tip jar. So if you'd like to encourage us to do some more because you like the show, and it does cost us some money. And thank you so much to the 2 people who did yesterday. We will give you a more proper shout out in the upcoming shows. But if you would like to go there, coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you go there and leave us a little something, you earn our gratitude. And plus, your sex appeal goes up 37.2%. We tested it in our labs. It's true. It's science.
And that extra 0.2% just puts you right over the top.
Makes all the difference. All the difference.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because democracy is something that you do. Hey, why not make like Dan? If you've got something going on in your area and you think, this sucks. Somebody should really do something about that. Hey, maybe that's you. Consider running for something. You never know. Could work out. Kids and cubs. Could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom? Please.
Yeah. In this bizarre time that we're currently living in, the thing that I've been working on lately, and I think I've been mostly successful, is reining in my anger and using it in a constructive form rather than spewing hate back at hate. So what I'm trying to say is when you encounter somebody giving you hatred, try and find a positive way to influence them, and at the same time politely putting them in their place. It's not easy. And it's something that I'm working on, and I'm slowly getting better at it. But instead of telling an individual to choke on my member, I've decided that instead I will address them as a human being and try and have some sort of dialogue with them, because I think that's a better way to do it, because it's constructive that way. And maybe I can bring them around. Maybe I can inform somebody. Maybe I can help somebody, for want of a better phrase, see the light. Because oftentimes people are sitting in their echo chamber of hate and rage and don't recognize it. And remember, it doesn't start off with white hoods and jackboots. It gets worked up to it. It gets groomed towards that. So let's try and groom people out of that. So exercise patience, exercise caution, exercise kindness, compassion, and when possible, empathy.
All right. Those are some words of wisdom. Mr. Grizzly, I think it's time to cue the cock.
I believe you are correct, sir.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
So I have a quick Easter egg for you, and it's a two-parter.
Ooh.
The first one I'm going to show you quickly, and I'll read it somewhat edited. I'll read the somewhat edited version of it. How dumb do you have to be to think that Algeria sent a trans person to the Olympics? You do recognize that transgenderism is illegal in Algeria? Like, it's literally against the law there. Okay? So there's the first part of the tweet. Here comes the second. And this one is good. Because it sums it up. For all the people I've seen online going, why is a man fighting in boxing? Well, here's the thing. From Amy Broadhurst. I have a lot of people texting me over Mcintosh. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. Personally, I don't think she has done anything to cheat. I think it is the way she was born, and that's out of her control. The fact that she's been beaten by 9 females before says it all. Then some gentleman by the name of Ben Hyde says, what would your action have been if you were supposed to fight Kalev? Amy, I have great respect for your boxing legacy, but you've missed the mark here. Agree the way you're born is out of your control, but it's a clear advantage and shouldn't be allowed.
Mm-mm.
Amy Broadhurst did fight Mcintosh in the 2022 World Championship final. She won.
Uh-huh. And here's the thing, right? It's an advantage and shouldn't. Okay, now do Michael Phelps.
Yeah. Yeah.
He literally has a body
built to do what he did.
Built that was freakishly so.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. He, the average person has a wingspan this much. His is too much. No, he can't be allowed to compete because in 1999 we had Amélie. The people are talking about Amélie Mauresmo, the tennis player from France.
Mm-hmm.
Solid, big shoulders.
Yeah.
She plays like a man. She looks like a man.
Here's the best part. Check this out. As soon as you say it, look what happens. Look what comes up in my feed like 2 seconds later. This is from yesterday, but 2 seconds later, this came up in my feed. In terms of Mcintosh having a biological advantage, let's discuss Michael Phelps. Phelps has double-jointed elbows and knees, a hyperextended thorax, 50% lactic acid production than the average competitor, and yet no one ever said he had a biological advantage.
I'm sure if they do an analysis of Simone Biles, they'll probably find that she's got something in her calves that allows her to jump that damn high, or
Yes.
something, or like a different type of. Because we are all born different, and we all have gifts. Some of them happen to be athletic. Just cope.
Some days. Some days.
Let
All right.
people play. Mr. Grizzly, I saw a couple of people in the chat saying, can Mr. Beaver continue on Zone somewhere? Would you object to that if I started another one, or should we just start till Monday?
Well, I mean, if you want to carry on with this, but I have to come back to end it later.
Oh.
And I've got other things I got to be doing right now.
No, so. I would just start another feed.
Oh, if you want to start another feed, go by all means, go ahead. It's too noisy here right now with the construction taking place in the building.
Yeah.
I wanted to record some jazz podcasts this week because I have the time, but I can't. It's just too noisy. And when the end of the day rolls around, okay, I can do it then, but the energy you want, need, and desire, but at 6 p.m. it's not there, man.
All right.
It's not there. So if you want to go ahead, yeah, you can. You know how to log in to you've got producer credits, so you can log in and do something if you want.
All right, Kits and Cubs. Give me about 10 minutes time to top up my water, and I'll come back and I'll do a tiny bit more.
All right.
That's right, because I got to go with other topics. All right.
I'll see you later.
Bye everyone.